Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to change your life, change the place you live, not the city, not the house, but the place in consciousness from which you think and feel. Today I invite you to act as if you already have everything, not because you're pretending, but because in truth you do. The secret is this: imagination is the only reality. What you accept inwardly as true will one day be expressed outwardly. So the question is not what do you want? The question is, what are you accepting as true within yourself right now? When you act as if you already have the love, the wealth, the peace, the health, what you're really doing is assuming a state of consciousness. You're not begging for change, you're living from it. You're not asking to be rich, you are rich in feeling. You're not waiting for love, you are love now. This is not wishful thinking, this is spiritual law. Feel it, real. The world responds not to what you say, but to what you are. And what you are is what you accept internally as true. So how do you act as if you have everything? You live from the end. You imagine the scene that would be true if your desire were fulfilled, and you dwell in it. You feel it. You rehearse it, not as a future possibility, but as a present fact. Your emotions must reflect the reality of already having. That is the signal you send to the universe. That is the vibration that rearranges your world. Do not be fooled by appearances. The senses will lie to you if you let them. The facts may say you are still without, but the truth, real truth, is what you accept inside. So persist. Persistence is faith in motion. Do not seek signs, be the sign. Understand this: states create circumstances. You're not fighting the old, you're stepping into the new. When you assume the state of the fulfilled desire, the world must rearrange to reflect it. It's not magic, it's law. Finally, remember, every assumption, if persisted in, will harden into fact. So choose your assumptions wisely. Act as if you already are who you want to be, and you will become it, not by striving, but by surrendering to the truth of it. You are the operant power. The world is waiting to mirror what you dare to believe. So, how do you act as if you have everything? By knowing you're ready to. Imagination is the only reality. Everything you see, touch, taste, and hear began first in the unseen realm of imagination. Before the house was built, the architect imagined it. Before the song was sung, the melody was heard in silence. Before the moment unfolded, it was first conceived in thought. The outer world is merely the echo of an inner activity. Most people believe that reality is what they can observe with the senses. But the senses only confirm the past. They cannot lead, they can only follow. What appears in your world today is simply the harvest of thoughts, feelings, and assumptions you've entertained previously, whether consciously or unconsciously. Imagination is not idle. It is not fantasy or escape. It is the creative act itself. Every time you imagine something with feeling, you are setting into motion a cause that must find its matching effect in the world around you. It is through imagination that you shape the structure of your life. If you see yourself as limited, small, or unseen, that image becomes a mold, and life faithfully pours itself into it. But if you dare to imagine yourself free, powerful, abundant, or deeply loved, and you remain loyal to that image, then life has no choice but to express that new conception. Imagination is always at work. You cannot stop imagining, but you can choose what to imagine. Most live reactively, imagining worst-case scenarios, fearing the future, or replaying past hurts, and then wondering why they feel stuck. They do not realize they are living in a world made of their own unseen mental activity. The dreamer and the dream are one. To change the dreamer must awaken to the fact that they are the cause, not the effect. You may say, but I've imagined things before and they didn't happen. And yet, did you persist? Did you remain faithful to the state of the wish fulfilled? Or did you let doubt creep in and assume something else instead? Imagination is not a one-time act. It is a state of being. What you dwell on consistently shapes the conditions of your world. The moment you identify with a new concept of yourself and occupy it with feeling, you plant the seed. What follows is not your responsibility to force. Your task is only to remain in the state of the fulfilled desire. Every invention, every breakthrough, every transformation began as an idea impressed with feeling upon the imagination. It is the spiritual womb of creation. To live by imagination is not to live in denial of facts, but to understand that facts are fluid and must bow to the persistent assumption. It is not by effort, but by imaginative alignment that the world bends. To feel it real is to step beyond words and into the living experience of your desire fulfilled. It is not enough to speak affirmations or visualize scenes passively. You must enter the mood, the tone, the vibration of the thing desired, as though it were yours already. The mind alone is not the creative force. It is the union of thought and feeling that gives rise to change. Feeling is the secret ingredient, the spiritual signature that determines what your imagination brings forth. When you close your eyes and imagine a scene that implies your wish is already fulfilled, you must do more than see it. You must feel it. You must let the emotions of that imagined experience sink into your being. If you were truly in possession of what you desire, how would you feel? Peaceful, grateful, relieved, powerful, secure? Let that feeling rise and take root, as if you were wearing it like a second skin. It is this emotional conviction that sends the message to life itself. This is who I am now. Feelings are not vague reactions, they are energies, creative instructions, shaping the unseen substance of reality. The world outside reflects not what you want, but what you are conscious of being. When you feel lack, even in your wanting, you produce more of that lack. But when you feel fullness, even in the absence of physical proof, you begin to call the invisible into form. Desire alone does not create. Longing for a thing only reinforces its distance. Creation begins the moment you assume the feeling of already being or having what you see. This practice requires a subtle but powerful shift from looking for evidence to becoming the evidence. You must stop waiting for the condition and start living from the condition. If love is your desire, feel love now. If success is your goal, feel the pride and accomplishment now. Do not postpone the feeling. Do not wait for permission. You are not pretending. You are selecting a state of being and inhabiting it. Just as an actor becomes the character, you must become the one who already has. The feeling must be natural, not strained. It is not about forcing emotion, but gently accepting it as your truth. Let the inner world be so vivid, so emotionally real, that it overshadows any contradiction from the senses. Let it become your dwelling place, your emotional home. Over time, the outer must conform. The world will rearrange itself to mirror your internal shift, not because you begged it to change, but because you changed your self-perception. And that change in consciousness is law. To live from the end is to occupy the state of your fulfilled desire, here and now. It means assuming the feeling and identity of the person who already possesses what they once longed for. It is not about hoping, striving, or waiting. It is about entering the mental and emotional atmosphere of the desired outcome as though it were a present reality. You do not look at your goal as something distant or separate. You live as though it has already been achieved. And in doing so, you bring it nearer in form. The moment you live from the end, you stop asking when or how. Those questions dissolve because they belong to the mind of someone still lacking. But when you dwell in the end, those concerns lose their weight. The how is not your responsibility. The end knows the way. When you are in the state of being wealthy, you no longer worry about money. When you are in the state of being loved, you no longer chase affection. Your actions Your energy and your responses begin to align naturally with the new identity you've taken on. Living from the end is not a matter of pretending or tricking the senses. It is a radical shift in self-identification. You are not the one who hopes to be. You are the one who already is. This doesn't mean you ignore the world around you. It means you give the most weight and authority to the world within. When the outer contradicts the inner assumption, you do not waver. You hold to your vision with inner certainty, knowing that the seen is temporary and must reflect the unseen in time. To live from the end, you craft a scene in your imagination that implies your wish is fulfilled. You make it vivid, rich in detail, and filled with a feeling of completion. You return to that scene often, not to get something, but to remind yourself of what you are. You move through your day not as someone trying to become, but as someone who already is. This shift in consciousness influences every word, every step, every choice, not through effort, but through alignment. There is no power in simply thinking about the end. You must feel from it. To think of something is to keep it at a distance. To think from it is to claim it. Living from the end is the embodiment of faith. You do not need to know the mechanics. You trust that what you are in consciousness will unfold naturally in the world of form. You accept the desire as already accomplished and surrender the rest. Persistence over evidence is the unwavering commitment to the unseen truth you have accepted within, regardless of what the outer world appears to show. It is the refusal to let physical circumstances dictate your inner state. The moment you choose to believe in a new reality, you enter into a sacred contract with yourself, not to be moved by appearances, not to measure progress by sight, but to remain loyal to the end you have imagined, even when nothing seems to change. The senses are loud, immediate, and convincing, but they are not the final authority. They reflect only what has been accepted and sustained in consciousness up to this point. When you look to the outer world for confirmation, you are delaying your manifestation, because you are placing power in what is already formed, instead of in the creative cause within. True transformation requires that you persist in your assumption, not for a few hours or a few days, but until it becomes so natural that the old reality fades away. Persistence is not stubborn effort. It is quiet certainty. It is the silent knowing that what you have imagined with feeling must come to pass. You do not beg for change. You persist in the inner experience of already being changed. You return again and again to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You enter the state deliberately, and if you fall out of it, you gently return. It is not perfection that is required. It is loyalty to the new identity you have chosen. Evidence will often come late. The world may remain unchanged for a time. Doubts may whisper. Circumstances may appear to contradict your vision, and yet you hold your course. You do not abandon the state because it seems untrue. You continue in it until it becomes true. What is real is not what is visible now, but what is alive and active in your consciousness. The seed, once planted, is not seen immediately, but the wise gardener does not dig it up. They water it with trust. Persistence is the true test of belief. Anyone can imagine once. Anyone can feel a spark of desire, but to remain in the assumed state day after day, to think from it, feel from it, speak from it, even in the absence of results, that is the power that changes lives. You are not convincing the world. You are convincing yourself. And once the inner conviction is firm, the world must bend. The outer cannot resist the inner forever. It must yield. It must conform. It must reflect what you have persisted in believing, no matter how long it takes. States create circumstances because your state of consciousness is the foundation upon which your entire world is built. A state is not a fleeting mood or temporary emotion. It is a deep inner attitude, a sustained way of being that colors how you interpret, respond to, and influence the world around you. When you inhabit a state, you see through its lens, feel from its center, and act according to its logic. The world does not shape you. You shape the world by the state you occupy. There is no such thing as an isolated event. Every experience, every encounter, every condition in your life is an outpicturing of the state you are in, whether you entered it knowingly or not. The world reflects back to you the assumptions you carry within. If you are in a state of lack, life will confirm that with missed opportunities, difficult relationships, and persistent struggle. But if you enter the state of abundance, even before evidence appears, the world will begin to respond with new channels, people, and situations that match that inner shift. Changing the state is not about manipulating the outer world. It is about shifting your inner self. You don't fight the circumstance, you transcend it by moving into a new state. You do not change the reflection in the mirror by touching the mirror. You change your face. Likewise, you change your life by changing the internal state from which you live. The outer follows the inner, always. The world outside is only a screen upon which the inner drama is projected. You can move between states at will. You are not fixed, and neither is your reality. The moment you decide to assume a new identity, to see yourself as capable, loved, whole, or successful, you initiate a new script. The people, events, and conditions that match that script begin to unfold, not by coincidence, but by the law of correspondence. Each state has its own logic, its own timing, and its own unfolding. You cannot experience the reality of a state until you enter it, and once you do, the world must take the shape of that state. States are not changed by force. They are changed by acceptance. You do not try to be different. You feel yourself to be different. You let go of the old story and surrender to the tone of the new one. The more natural that new state feels, the more quickly it begins to reflect itself in the world around you. Circumstances shift, not because you struggled with them, but because you became someone new in your inner world. Everything in your life is downstream from consciousness. You are not at the mercy of what happens to you. You are the one who decides where you live internally, and by that choice, you determine what happens next. Assumption is creative because every assumption held with conviction sets the wheels of reality in motion. An assumption is not merely a passing thought. It is a deeply accepted belief about yourself, others, or the world. Once you accept something as true within, whether or not it is currently visible, it begins to organize circumstances to reflect that inner truth. You do not need to will it, force it, or even understand how it will come about. The assumption itself contains the power to express, and in time it must. What you assume to be true becomes your experience, not because you wish it so, but because you have claimed it as your identity. The world outside mirrors not what you desire, but what you assume yourself to be. If you assume you are always overlooked, life will confirm that at every turn. If you assume you are chosen, loved, and supported, your days begin to unfold in harmony with that belief. The assumption silently writes the script, and the world becomes the script it enacts it. This process is not linear or logical. It is vibrational, energetic, and deeply spiritual. Your assumptions are felt more than spoken. They live beneath the surface of your thoughts, shaping how you walk, how you speak, how you interpret life. Others respond to you based on the signal you emit, often without knowing why. When you change your assumptions, your environment must reorganize because it no longer has agreement with the old version of you. Assumptions do not wait for evidence. They create it. You do not need to see results before you assume something. In fact, results only appear after the assumption has been made and sustained. This is why the creative process begins in silence and imagination, in inner knowing. You assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not to get something, but to embody the new state. Once it feels natural, the outer must follow, because it is rooted in law. Assumptions held persistently rewrite your reality in subtle but undeniable ways. They influence your tone, your posture, your timing, your expectations. They open some doors and close others. They lead you to conversations, decisions, and opportunities that match what you believe to be true. It may appear accidental, but it is precise. Life always answers who you are being, not occasionally, but always. To understand that assumption is creative is to recognize that you are never waiting on the world. The power is always within your hands, quiet, personal, immediate. You do not need to chase, convince, or compete. You simply assume and remain. You dwell in the state long enough for the outer world to catch up, and it always will. So now you see, to act as if you have everything is not a game of pretending or wishing. It is a complete shift in consciousness. You are not reaching out towards something distant. You are choosing to become the one who already has, already is, already knows the fulfillment of their desire. You are not moved by appearances. You are moved by truth. You live from the end, feel it real, persist without proof, and trust that your inner world is the cause of all you experience. You are not bound by conditions. You rise above them by entering new states. You do not wait for change. You embody it. Assumption is not passive. It is the creative act itself. Everything begins within, and when you align with that inner reality, the outer must reflect it. This is the power that has always been yours. The power to imagine, to feel, to assume, and to see those unseen realities made manifest. So walk forward now, not in doubt, not in fear, but in quiet confidence. Act as if you have everything, because in truth you do. Thank you.